Excited to build forward. Win like most first games where you find some things that you did well to win the football game, but at the same time find some things that you got to improve upon. And it's a great environment Thursday night, and now we got to take that on the road and play in what's going to be another really good environment at Camp Randall Stadium.
Anyone? Zach Borg, go ahead.
Um, Coach, I guess we've seen a lot of teams over the years in the FCS that have gone on to win a title or contend that have played an FBS game that usually when they play these games, a lot of the time they tend to compete well. Sometimes they win. Is this an important benchmark for your team to go in and obviously I know you want to win every time and play well in this game, but is this one where this team really wants to go in here and certainly winning would be obviously win would be the optimal thing, but hopefully give Wisconsin a pretty good battle?
Well, I think the key thing there, Zach, is games like this require you to play your very best to have a chance to win. You're playing against outstanding personnel in some positions and a lot of positions. You're probably playing against the best personnel that you're going to face all year. And so going in with a good plan, going in and competing at that level, and you understand you're going to have to do a lot of things really well to have a chance to win. That's just the essence of these games. And there were some things that we did well Thursday, some things that we didn't do very well. And so a lot of the focus this week not only is preparation, for specifically for Wisconsin, but it's, hey, these are areas that we got to be better and fundamentally working to improve in those areas.
What did you see from Wisconsin, or what have you seen so far from Wisconsin on tape? I know Western Michigan actually led them in the fourth quarter in their game the other week. What have they shown so far on tape, and what are you expecting from them on Saturday?
Yeah, well, they're a balanced offensive football team. Phil Longo is a guy I know very well. We worked together at Duluth. He's does a great job of, from an offensive standpoint, balancing the run game with the passing game. They've got an experienced quarterback, experienced running backs that are hard runners that you're going to have to tackle well against. Try to avoid giving up those big bunches of extra yards after contact. And the thing that Western Michigan did a good job of is, avoiding a lot of big chunk plays. And that's going to be one of the keys, for us defensively as well. Defensively, they're, like they are offensively, they're very physical up front. One of the keys for us offensively is to find some ways that we can move the ball with some consistency. And then you got to take advantage of every possible scoring opportunity that you get. Certainly we played well in the kicking game Thursday night. We're going to have to play really well in the kicking game on Saturday afternoon, and take care of some of those little things in the margin, with turnovers and finding some ways to make some things happen.
And last one on my part, we've talked a lot about how much the experience matters for this year's group. They went down to Missouri last year, and I know the final score may not reflect it, but pretty good effort from last year's group. How much does it matter that they've, especially going into what's one of the tougher venues to play in Camp Randall, how much does it matter that they've got that experience with Missouri under their belt? They've been through playing in front of a big FBS environment, so presumably this isn't a new experience for a lot of them. They should be able to kind of handle that experience of playing in front of a big capacity crowd that's probably going to be pretty pretty jazzed up on a nationally televised game here on Saturday afternoon.
Yeah. Camp Randall, I've had the opportunity to coach there once when I was at Western Illinois. It's a great environment, a lot of fans. Our guys have, particularly our regulars have experienced those kind of environments, whether it's been Kansas State, Missouri last year. The fact that you've been in national playoff games, played at some of the venues in our league, like North Dakota State, where even though there's not as many fans, it has that same, kind of causes some of the same kinds of issues with communication and that those bigger venues. I think your guys understand it's still 11 on 11. There's might be 80,000 in the stadium, but there's 11 guys on the field playing against 11 guys, and it's all about how you execute one play at a time.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Jay.
Hey, Coach.
Hey, Jay.
Nationally, the results FCS versus FBS last week were not as typically competitive as we've become accustomed to seeing the last few years. In the Valley, I think it was 6 games, FBS against FCS, and all of them were 3-score games, except for North Dakota State. What do you make of that?
Well, I think FBS teams are particularly those in the Power 5 conferences. It's going to be hard to find a team that's not really good. And that doesn't take away from the quality of FCS football, but there is something to be said now at that level that you're up against teams that are got multi-million-dollar payrolls, and so the depth of those teams. It's always been a part of the equation in these games, and probably even to a greater extent now than maybe even a couple 3 years ago. And so that's kind of the way it is, and the FCS programs are gonna to have a chance to beat a team like Wisconsin or any of those Power 5 teams are gonna have to play outstanding football. You're not going to be able to make mistakes. I think that's one of the things when you play a team like this. If you make a mistake, lots of times it's going to cost you a big play, and instead of maybe a 10-15 yard gain, it's going to be a big play defensively, or it's going to cost you a negative play offensively, because it'll be hard to find a weakness on those kinds of opponents.
Obviously, one of the big changes this year was the ability to have, in-helmet communication at the FBS level. North Dakota State decided to pony up and spend the money to have that for Colorado. Not having that, is that a bigger disadvantage? Is it not really matter much? Doesn't change much? Or any thoughts on that part of it?
I don't know. I mean, from to use it for one game and then not be able to access it, it would require you to completely change your communication system for 1 week. We're a little different than some teams from a standpoint of our quarterbacks huddle, and we use wristband calls anyway, so it's not like anybody's going to pick up our signals per se, so we don't worry about that. That's one of the reasons why FBS has gone to that technology. Is there some potential coaching on calls that you can use with sideline to player communication? Yeah, there is. At the same time, it shuts off at a certain point, and so the amount that you can actually do there is somewhat limited. So I think you know, it's one of the differences that we're going to deal with in this game. You know, it's funny because there's still Wisconsin still signaling plays from the sideline. You know, they're using a signaling system themselves. So I think for teams at the college level, you're still going to see, even though they have the ability to use in-helmet communication, you're still going to see a combination of ways in which they're communicating to the quarterback.
Could you, I mean, you mentioned your relationship with Phil. Could you just add a little more context on what your background together was exactly, and how, you know, how that relationship has continued?
Yeah, Phil, you know, Phil was our offensive coordinator at Duluth during the years that I was the athletic director. And so, you know, he was running the offense there, and then when he left Duluth, actually was in the Valley for a couple of years at Southern Illinois. And then his career has taken him around and to a number of places and through. So, you know, offensively, extremely creative offensive mind, you know, a guy that is kind of rooted in some of the air raid principles, but has developed kind of his own niche there with a little bit more run game now in the last couple spots that he's been, both at North Carolina and at now at Wisconsin.
Last one for me, just do you feel more prepared for this game? I mean, we talked a little bit about it last week about the ability to have a game before you go into your FBS opponent. Do you feel at least shaking some of the stuff loose?
Yeah, I think there's certainly some benefit, and I think the benefit really comes, and I mentioned this already, is you really get a gauge of, okay, all right, things that we did well, things that we were not prepared to be able to play a team like Wisconsin, and you'd rather find that out in advance than find it out when you're playing Wisconsin. So trying to shore up some of those areas that we feel like we've got to be better at to take a competitive a football team into to Madison. And it's given us not just a week, it's given us actually a week and a day because of the longer week to be able to work on. So yeah, the way the schedule worked out this year, I think, was really beneficial.
Thanks, Bob.
Alex, go ahead.
So you mentioned, you know, Camp Randall, very hostile environment. Have you guys done any extra preparation for that environment?
Well, I suppose we could ask student body to come out on the practice field and yell at our guys. But no, we've got speakers on the stadium, and if we do practice inside, we'll use the PA system inside to at least, you know, make it loud. So our communication, you know, both at the line of scrimmage and even huddle communication and all of that is stressed by that. You know, the other pieces are, you know, that of the whatever the stadium holds, the majority of them are going to be cheering for them, and we'll have a very vocal handful that's going to be cheering for us. And guys, you know, as a road team, you know that's going to be the case, and you just got to stay focused on what's going on between the lines.
Yeah, so the run game was really strong for you guys last week. How important is it to get Aiden kind of in the role when you guys head up to Wisconsin?
Yeah, we're going to have to be balanced. You know, if you're not a balanced football team against a really good defense, which their defense is a really good defense, you're going to have trouble moving the football. And you know, we didn't have to throw the ball very much. And again, it was a little bit of a weird football game when you factor in that you have two special team scores. And as a result, that's two possessions that you don't have offensively. So, you know, didn't really feel like we got into any rhythm offensively. And, you know, when we did, it was getting our run game going. a little bit more consistently. So, getting Aiden comfortable, being able to distribute the football has got to be a part of our plan this week.
Yeah, and then just last one for me, Wisconsin more than doubled Western Michigan's first downs and had 11 minutes more time of possession. So how do you guys plan to kind of slow down their attack and maybe possess the ball a little more yourselves?
Yeah, they did a great job of controlling the football in that game, and I think part of that is you got to find a way to control it yourself a little bit. You've got to, when you have an offensive possession, you got to do everything you got to try to stay on the field. I thought Wisconsin did a good job of driving the football. Didn't necessarily generate a lot of chunk plays, but they did a good job of converting first downs, driving the football with consistency, and that type of offense can really wear you down if you're not controlling the football somewhat yourself. So I think that's one of the keys for us offensively is, hey, let's find some things that we can do on a consistent basis offensively and try to generate some drives ourselves.
Awesome. Thanks, Coach.
All right, who next? With nobody on my list of in waiting right now. Go ahead, Ian.
Hey, Coach. You mentioned just one question for me. You mentioned a couple minutes ago about being able to pick out the things that you feel like you did really well and some things that you might have struggled with. In the Northern games help set you up for the game with Wisconsin. What are some of the things that fall into each of those categories?
Well, obviously, we played really well in the kicking game. I mean, we generated 3 huge plays, 2 touchdowns, and then generated a turnover on another kicking game play that set up a touchdown. And so those were all positive results. We spend a lot of time in the kicking game, so it's good to see those things happen as a result of being well prepared and execution. From a defensive standpoint, gave up a couple of chunk plays in that first drive, but I really thought we responded. Winning the turnover margin was something that we talk about in terms of winning football. Again, offensively, I think if there were a couple of things that we'd like to improve upon, it's we didn't, had opportunities to convert third downs in a couple of drives, whether it was dropping a pass or blowing a protection, or those are things that against Wisconsin, if you do those kinds of things, they'll have a tendency to multiply. But did feel like we finally got some rhythm going with our running game, and I thought our running backs ran really, really hard, broke some tackles and got some extra yards after contact. So always some good, always some. I think up front offensively we're going to have to play with more consistency. I thought there was some up and down there as that group kind of comes together, and they'll need to be a full week better this week.
We'll circle back to Alex.
Yeah, Coach, just one thing to add on to it. You said Wisconsin, physical football team. How important will it be to, get those substitutions in both offensive and defensively?
And that's kind of it's kind of an interesting question because the one thing you want to make sure that your guys are fresh and have the ability to rotate when possible. At the same time, it's going to be one of those games where our best players got to be on the field, and so we'll substitute what I call smartly, where we have the opportunity to do that and feel like that we can do that and not impact. But it's probably going to be a little tighter substitution rotation for sure than it was Thursday night.
unless we have any other questions, we'll wrap it up. Again, thanks for the flexibility, everyone. We'll be back to 10 a.m.s on Monday, starting next week. One last look here. It doesn't look like any other hands are being raised. So thanks for hopping on, everyone, and we'll get this emailed out to you guys as soon as we can get it uploaded.
Yeah,
Thanks, everyone.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.